Miss Andrea Bailey, can you please mute?
Yes. How do you do it?
You had just muted yourself, ma'am, with the little small microphone.
I just did it.
I have a question. What the fuck?
All right, hello, Ms. Bridgewater, are you ready?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Let's see, I have one add-on, is that correct?
That is correct.
Noah Nelson. Oops. I just lost the lighting in my room, so give me a moment and just check out what's going on. Okay, perfect. All right, do we have folks at the jail, courtroom 2? Ready? Just waiting for the jail, someone to appear. Is pre-trial present or Mr. Howard, have you heard from folks at the jail?
Calling now.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McLeod, who are your clients on this calendar?
Okay, she disappeared.
No, she's here. I think she may have stepped away from this. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with the case calendar as soon as someone from the Fulton County Jail responds on Zoom.
Okay, there we are.
Your Honor, and it looks like they're attempting to bring Mr. Nelson up, and we have not concluded our conversations in regards to his case. There is an attorney who is currently trying to assist, but we need to get a little bit more information so we can go forward. So if we could just do another case instead in the meantime. Thank you, Your Honor.
Courtroom 2, good afternoon. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to commence with our misdemeanor calendar. This is what we call the state expedited accusation calendar. It is with the Fulton County State Court, and these are cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Upon being booked, the prosecutor, which is called the Solicitor General of Fulton County, has already formally accused the defendant of one or more misdemeanor offenses. Hence, this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer with the state court of Fulton County. When I call your case, I will be informing you of what your accusation number is, what are the charges brought against you, who will be representing you, who will be your legal advocate, as well as to provide you with a bond if one has not been previously set. If you are charged with one or more criminal misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent about the facts of your case. Any comments you make during the course of this virtual proceeding, which is not only being recorded, but also live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one of our attorneys from the Public Defender's Office or from our conflict defense list will be representing you. So courtroom 2, who do we have first in the seat?
Position number 1.
All right, thank you. This is State versus Summer Simone Akil, charged with battery from August 16th, 2023. Ms. Akil, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Your Honor, was it Akil? Did you say, Your Honor?
Yes, Akil.
That is
AK.
actually Mr. P.D. Donnie Pulliam is the attorney, so he should be coming up shortly.
All right, well, Mr. Pulliam?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was on the phone with a couple of other people I have to interview, but I do represent Mr. Keel.
All right, let me amend that announcement. The attorney for Ms. Akil is Mr. Donnie Pulliam. All right, Mr. Tucson, any priors?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Huddock?
Hudak, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. What is the state's recommendation for Ms. Akil?
Your Honor, the recommendation is $2,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Chasade West, and that's spelled CHASADE. Stay away order from the Kroger where the incident occurred. 1 day, anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to proceed with the recitation of the facts.
Briefly, please.
Sure. This incident occurred yesterday, as I said, at the Kroger located at 725 Ponce de Leon Avenue. Officers arrived. They were investigating a fight that began because the victim, who was working alongside of the defendant, was sighing. The defendant asked the victim if she was catching an attitude towards her. The defendant walked towards the victim, asked her if she said something. Ms. West said she didn't say anything. The defendant responded with attitude. The defendant swung at the victim and they ended up fighting. They were separated by co-workers until the police arrived. Ms. West did suffer a laceration near her eyebrow and a swollen bottom lip. Your Honor, because it was completely unprovoked at a place of employment, that is the recommendation for the $2,000 surety bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Miss Akil, Your Honor. She does have a valid address here in the Fulton County area where she stays with her father and other family members. She actually works, again, as the state stated, works at the Kroger in a managerial position, Your Honor. And so we're actually asking for a signature bond in this case. Miss Akil has no prior criminal history, Your Honor. She has a high school diploma. She's age 24. Again, no prior arrest. Again, this is not the day that we're arguing facts about this particular case. This is just a set bond. And so we're asking for a signature bond in this case today.
All right, bond is going to be set at 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Miss Akil, you are to have no further contact with Shahsaid West. Unless you have different time shift hours to work at the Kroger on Ponce de Leon, or if you're still employed by that Kroger, you are to stay away from the Kroger at Ponce de Leon. Like I said, if you're still employed and they give you different hours to work, different from Miss West, then you can go work there during those hours. But as soon as your time shift is over, you would need to leave the premises before Miss West comes in for her shift. But if you cannot work at the same time shift as Miss West, if and only if you're still employed by the Kroger. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And you are to attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program with the pretrial services. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current mailing address. If you change your address, make sure that we have a copy of that you notify us of your change of address. All right. I think that is it for this case. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be August the 30th.
All right, got it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Next case, please. All right. This is Miss Monteya, Malaysia, Bailey Brown hyphenated, case number 23 CR 005-023Y. Miss Brown has got been arrested on stemming from a traffic incident from August 16, 2023. The charges include a simple battery against a police officer, willful obstruction of an officer, fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer, driving without a valid license, driving with an expired license, and having an obscured or missing license plate. Those are the six misdemeanor charges brought against Ms. Bailey Brown. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fifth arrest, last arrest was in March. Failed to appear. She was arrested earlier this year for fleeing an officer, and she's homeless. They got an open trespass out of state court.
All right, and that would be 22 CR 3071Y. Okay. Okay, and Miss Bailey Brown, you've been advised, as I said, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Mr. Pulliam, are you representing Miss Bailey Brown as well?
Your Honor, that's actually my case.
All right, Ms. Kim, all right?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Kim is your attorney, and Ms. Bickerstaff, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge Law. Just quickly for the record, this incident, as you already know, this incident occurred yesterday at 5200 Windward Parkway. And this is where officers were driving behind the defendant. She was driving a Nissan on Windward Parkway, and the officer noted that they could not read the license plate tag because there was a lot of tape on the tag. So it made the license plate unreadable. The vehicle, officers discovered the vehicle had an expired registration out of Ohio since December of 2022. And officers also discovered that the defendant had been stopped in Forsyth, Georgia, and was issued a citation for having an expired tag of July of this year. Your Honor, after initiating the traffic stop and informing the defendant of why she was being stopped, the defendant gave the officer a copy of that Forsyth citation. And when the officer asked for the defendant's driver's license, the defendant responded that the officer did not need their driver's license license, and that the officer did not have a valid reason for the stop. Officers noted that the defendant was aggressive during this stop, and when officers attempted to get the defendant out of the car, the defendant drove off in the Walmart parking lot. After officers looked up that citation in Forsyth, they discovered that the defendant did not have a valid driver's license. Additionally, Your Honor, the defendant was found hiding after she took off on the officer. She was found hiding behind a solar salon studios off of Highway 9 in Alpharetta. And when officers attempted to arrest the defendant, she resisted arrest by pulling her arms away. And once she was being transported to the jail, the officer noted that the defendant spat on the officer. So given all of these facts, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is to keep the already set bond at a $2,450 surety bond. The breakdown of that is for charge one, $50. It's a $50 surety bond. For driving an expired license, it's a $200 surety bond. Driving without a valid license is a $600 surety bond. Fleeing and eluding, $1,000. Willful obstruction of an officer, $600. And simple battery on a law enforcement officer, $1,000, Your Honor. And we're also are recommending no driving without a valid license, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client, Miss Bailey Brown, is 22 years old, and she says that she's been here in Georgia for about 6 months, and yet she was incarcerated at Forsyth County and then Fulton County, and she is back to jail for the same charge. She is trying to get the license. However, she is facing financial challenges. Right now, she is residentially challenged, and she was working as a driver for DoorDash to deliver the food. However, she's not able to do that, so she has no income as of now. So she really needs to get signature on bond to get out of the jail. And if there is no one who can, here in Georgia, she does not have anybody to help her to bail out. So we would like to request for a signature on bond. And I think she has been in the jail for the same charge long enough, Your Honor. Thank you.
Now, she's got a failure to appear in the criminal trespass case. I don't know what the bond amount is, but let me see.
She says she was in jail at the
Yes,
Forsyth County.
I'm showing on the booking sheet that for this charge, oh, you're saying in Forsyth, in Fulton County on this charge, she's only been in Fulton County jail for a day.
She was arrested back on March 3rd and booked out, released on April 29th.
Mm-hmm.
And then this occurred on August 16th. Okay, thank you. I'm going to keep the same bonds as recommended by the state. The total bond is going to remain at $3,450. And Ms. Bridgewater, I'll just go over the bond amounts again. Count 1 is $50. Count 2 is $200. Count 3 is $600. Count 4 is $1,000. Count 5 is $600, and count 6 is $1,000. The obscured and missing license plate, count 1. Count 2, driving with an expired or no license, and count 3, driving without a valid license. I'm going to amend those to a signature bond through the jail. So she's got a split bond, $2,600 surety, and then the remainder is a signature bond through the jail. No driving unless she has a valid driver's license. I don't care whether it's issued by the state of Ohio or issued by the state of Georgia. The vehicle must have adequate automobile insurance, and the tag and the registration must all be current. If any of these items are missing, then she's not permitted to operate a motor vehicle. Let me see, her next court date is going to be August 30th.
And I stand corrected, Your Honor. It should be August 31st.
31st, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
August 31st. Next court date's August 31st. And Ms. Bridgewater, we're going to address this new case as well as other open case, which is the 22 CR 3071Y.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Position 8.
This is State versus Regina Curry, charged with criminal trespass and public indecency from August 16, 2023. Ms. Curry, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be either Mr. Kim, Ms. Kim, or Mr. Pulliam. All right.
Mr. Pulliam, Your
All
Honor.
right, gotcha. Thank you. All right, Mr. Howard, any priors on, I have an open case for 23 CR 1143G. Anything else?
Yeah. She last arrest was July for marijuana possession. 2021 terrorist threats. 2 counts conviction, trespass conviction. 2021 trespass and PR conviction. And a 2020 simple battery against person over 65 years or older.
And what year was that? I'm sorry?
The battery 2020 simple battery.
All right. Miss Huda, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. This had occurred yesterday at the Mars bus station at 30 Alabama Street, Southwest in Atlanta. Officers were dispatched to the location. It's a bus shelter. The officer spoke to a MARTA bus driver who said she observed a male and a female in sex acts. The defendant was putting her clothing back on. As the officer and the bus driver were speaking, she was detained, and it was discovered that she was trespassed from MARTA on 2/3 of 2023. Your Honor, we are requesting a $2,000 surety bond, $1,000 per count, and a stay away from MARTA.
Mr. Pulliam?
I thank you, Your Honor. This is Ms. Curry, Your Honor. She
Yes.
does have a valid address here in the Fulton County area. She does have 2 children, 14 and age 11, Your Honor. We're asking today for a signature bond for Ms. Curry. She does express that she does have financial difficulties of traveling. And so, but I have advised her of the permanent ban from the MARTA station. And so we're asking for a signature bond in this particular case today, Your Honor.
All right. She doesn't qualify for a signature bond. She's got an arrest on February 2nd, 2023 for criminal trespass. She's got an arrest on February 28, 2023 for criminal trespass. And now August 17th. This is her 3rd arrest this year for criminal trespass, and in addition to the PI charge. Bond remains at $2,000. It is a surety bond. She's to stay away from all MARTA property until further order of the court. I don't care whether she's suspended or not. Until she gets a court order that she's allowed to go back on any MARTA property, she's to stay away from all stations, all buses, all trains, the sidewalks, the buildings, and so forth. Next court date is August 31st. Thank you.
Position number 12.
This is State versus Montreal, Harvey, and charged with willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer and criminal trespass from August 14, accusation number 23 CR 4999B. Looks like this was a reset case. Ms. Harvey, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Pulliam. Mr. Howard, any priors?
It's a second arrest. 2020 shoplifting dismissed.
All right, thank you. Ms. Huda?
Thank you, Your Honor. This did occur on 8/14. Officers responded to a criminal trespass report at 2400 Parkland Drive, Northeast Atlanta, which is an apartment complex. The security guard told officers that he noticed a female lying in the chair in the business room. He asked her to leave and she continued to lay in the chair and pretend to be asleep. He said he didn't know how she ended up in the building. He even threatened to call 911 if she didn't leave, and she continued to lay on the chair. When the officer arrived, he verbally announced himself and asked her to leave. She failed to do so, and he shook her arm. She raised her head and said, "Do not effing touch me." She then got up and he noticed a purse laying next to her. He asked her if it was hers. She said, "Do not touch my effing stuff." She then got up and walked to the bathroom, locked herself in it for numerous minutes. When she came back out, she started walking in the opposite direction of the exit. The officer attempted verbally and by touching her arm to direct her in the correct direction, but she started swinging her arms, almost hitting the officer in the face. He then attempted to detain her, but she placed both of her arms under her chest so he couldn't put them behind her back. He explained that he didn't want to hurt her and asked her to place her hands behind her back. She refused again. He radioed for assistance and she fell to the floor. He tried again to handcuff her, but she rolled over, preventing the officer from handcuffing her. The officer eventually had to wait for additional units to arrive before taking her into custody. Your Honor, we are requesting a $1,000 surety bond, $500 surety on each count. Stay away from the 2400 Parkland Drive address, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Mr. Pulliam? I'm sorry, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. This is Ms. Harvey, Your Honor. We're asking today for a signature bond on this particular case. Ms. Harvey does have a high school diploma. She's also the mother of a 6-year-old child. She is 26. She does have a valid address. And so even though this is not the day where we argue the facts of this case, we are adamant that that's not the way that this particular situation happened. In fact, Ms. Harvey says that she had lawful permission to be at the address where she was, where this incident took place. And so again, she has no prior convictions, Your Honor, and so we're asking today for a signature bond in this case.
What? This is going to be a split bond. On the criminal trespass is going to be a $500 signature bond through pretrial services, and the obstruction is going to be a $500 surety. Her total bond's $1,000 split. Next court date is August 31st. If she does make bond, she is to stay entirely 200 yards away, from 2400 Park Lane Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, the entire complex. No illegal drugs, weapons, and no alcohol. And I don't know what her current address is. Is it Covington, in Covington, or does she have a different address?
The one in Covington, Your Honor.
All right, the Abbey Court?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so just want to make sure that she has a valid address, and we will send her her next court date. If she bonds out, we'll send her her next court date to that address. Thank you.
That's per judge.
Okay, thank you.
14 to Judge.
Troynisha Deonia Jones is accused of disorderly conduct, reckless driving, and hit and run, failure of the driver to return or stop at the scene of the accident. This is from an August 12, 2023 incident. Ms. Jones, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Pulliam. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Last arrest, she was arrested this year for suspending the license in Clayton County. I think it was May of this year.
All right. This is citation number 23 CR 5022H. Ms. Hudak?
Thank you, Your Honor. On the date you mentioned, 8/12, Ms. Jones went to 973 Westmore Drive in Northwest Atlanta, and she went there to fight a Nicole Smith. And so her mother, Priscilla Smith, called the police, and then she told the police that when she drove up, she had 2 small children, approximately 18 months old, in the vehicle, and another female. Ms. Jones was screaming vulgar language out the car window. She reversed in the direction of Ms. Priscilla Smith's car, and then pulled forward quickly 3 times before absolutely backing in to the victim's car. She then fled the scene. The incident left the front right bumper damage of Ms. Smith's car. The car that Ms. Jones was driving had temporary tags on it, and it wasn't readable to the victims. While on the scene, the officer spoke to Ms. Jones on the phone and asked her to come back to the scene of the accident. And she told officers that he would have to take out warrants to catch her. The entire incident was in fact caught on video. Your Honor, again, because this was unprovoked and she went to the home of the Smiths, we are asking for a $3,000 surety bond, $1,000 on each count. No further contact with either Priscilla Smith or her daughter, Nicole Smith. Stay away from the Westmore Drive address, one-day anger awareness, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones does have a valid address in the Fulton County area, Your Honor. She's also the mother of 4 children, with the oldest being 6 and the youngest being twins, aged both 1 year old. She is currently in college, pursuing a degree to become a dental assistant, Your Honor. We're asking for a signature bond in this case, Your Honor, to give Ms. Jones the opportunity to return back to work as well as return to her children. We have no issues with the no contact with Priscilla Smith or Nicole Smith. We're just asking for a signature bond in this case today.
Bond's going to be set at 3,000 surety as recommended by the state, $1,000 on each count. No driving unless she has a valid driver's license, adequate automobile insurance, and the car is currently registered with valid tags. No temporary tags. There must be current permanent tags on the vehicle. Next court date is August 31st. If Ms. Jones does bond out, please be sure that we have your current mailing address where we will send you information about your next court date. Thank you.
Tradition number 19.
It's the state versus Danielle Richardson. Case number is 23 CR 005015C. Ms. Richardson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. The charge of which you've been accused is making harassing calls or engaging in harassing communication stemming from a April 7th, 2023 incident. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Second arrest. She was arrested on the 13th of this month out of Cobb County. Simple assault. That's it.
All right, thank you. August 13, 2023, and this is August. Was she transferred here from Cobb or?
I don't know. What's the date of this incident?
It's April 7th.
April 7th.
Probably so.
Okay. All right. Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor. So again, this incident occurred April 7th of this year at 1000 Johnson Ferry Road. And this is where the defendant has been a patient at that hospital several times, where Miss Tonia Gilliam works. And Miss Gilliam had to call defects on the defendant because of child abandonment and suspected drug use issues. And because of this, the defendant has been calling Miss Gilliam's office repeatedly and would begin yelling and threatening Miss Gilliam if and when she answered the phone. The defendant was criminally trespassed from the office and was told to stop calling and harassing employees. However, the calls have continued daily on a daily basis. So for these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond. We're asking for no further contact with Ms. Gilliam and to stay away from 1000 Johnson Ferry Road, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. I do not believe Ms. Gilliam is on Zoom, but I would still like to sound for her.
Ms. Tonia Gilliam? All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client is 32 years old. He was born in New York. She was born in New York, and she came to Georgia in 2019. And she was working in the beginning at the Gwinnett County court system. However, ever since she had 2 babies, she's been a stay-at-home mom. Her children are 1 year old and 2-year-old and 11 years old. She has to go back and take care of her children. She's been a full-time mom and as a single mother. Your Honor, my client denies the allegation. She says that she doesn't really go to Northside Hospital that much. And there was some kind of HIPAA violation so she complained about that one time. However, she does not recall Tonya Gilliam at all. And she does not she did not call this many times either. So there's gotta be some misunderstanding. That's what my client believes. We would like to request for a signature on bond so she can return home and take care of her 3 children. Thank you.
Bond is set at $1,000. It is a surety bond. Next court date is August 31st. No further contact with Tonia Gilliam, either in person, through a phone, computer, through a third party, or even on social media. She's to stay away from the Northside Hospital at 1000, what was that street address again?
It's 1000 Johnson Ferry Road.
Johnson Ferry Road, okay. She can only go to the Northside Hospital at that location if she has a verifiable appointment or she's seeking emergency medical services. But otherwise, she is to have no contact with that hospital and especially with Ms. Gilliam.
Your Honor.
Courtroom 2, if they could unmute the courtroom 2, please. Yes, Ms. Kim?
Oh, I wanted to emphasize the fact that she does have a very serious medical condition right now. I forgot to mention that, but it is very, very important. And she has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'll be happy to put into the chat what she has, but it is very chronic.
Go ahead.
So would you please give her signature on bond?
I need the information. Please send it in
Sure,
the chat directly to me.
Sure.
And then you can copy that also on Ms. Bickerstaff.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
John Ward, you want to come over here?
All right, understood. And is she seeking ongoing treatment for that?
Tomorrow, yes. There's a
Okay.
doctor's appointment for tomorrow.
All right, Ms. Bickerstaff, did you get the information?
I am trying to find her in the chat. Oh, here we go.
Go right at the top, ASG.
Yes.
All right.
I just sent it to her as well.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you have like proof of this, Ms. Kim?
No, I don't have proof of it.
No, I don't need proof. I'm not getting into that. My concern is that whether this is an imminent situation, and she has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. She
Yes.
has $1,000 surety bond. Once she makes bond, she will definitely be able to make the appointment. Otherwise, she will have to reschedule. In the meantime, she doesn't qualify for a signature bond. One primary reason, she has been arrested on a recent incident in Cobb County, and now she is got an outstanding charge from an April 7th incident. She doesn't qualify, but this is the lowest bond I can go. We can unmute courtroom 2. Ms. Peterson, please Ms. Richardson, excuse me, please understand that if you make any comments about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. Furthermore, the prosecution and I are aware of your medical condition. Please do not discuss that on Zoom because this is a public forum, and engaging in any discussions about your medical condition, well, it's not a HIPAA violation on our part, but it'll be, your improper disclosure of confidential information.
I understand. The reason I wanted to speak is because you asked earlier if I was transferred over here. I had no clue of the harassing. Mind you, my address has been the same for years. I had no clue about the warrant for harassing phone calls or anything.
That is not a defense, Ms. Richardson.
No, I know that. What I was saying, so when you said I had no prior arrest up until this is my first time ever being arrested or going to jail. So that's what I was trying to explain. I have no prior history. The only everything I've ever had.
Weren't you arrested on August 13th for simple assault in Cobb County?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's when I found out about this.
So this is your second arrest?
No, this is the first time
I'm not
Hold
gonna
on,
argue with you, Ms. Richardson.
let me pull it real quick. Let me pull it.
All right.
Your Honor, while pretrial is doing that, can we clarify if the defendant has to go to the doctor at the same hospital that she's been allegedly harassing employees at?
No, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I ended up at that hospital when I was arrested. When they went to book me in here, my blood pressure was too high, and so they sent me to the hospital. The officers took me to Northside Hospital, and that's when I found out that I even had these charges. That's when I found out about it. I didn't ask to go to Northside. They took me there because I needed medical attention while I was under arrest, and I ended up back at that facility. I have not been there since I ended up having those complications at that hospital.
Thank you.
So no, it's Cobb County, August 13th. Simple
And what was
assault.
the charge?
Simple assault.
All right.
For yelling.
$1,000 surety bond. Thank you.
Next is position 21.
This is State versus Cody Tyrus, Tyus, case number 23 CR 005018D. Ms. Tyus is accused of battery family violence from June 8, 2023. Ms. Tyus, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Howard, any priors?
No, I got first.
All right. Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred June 8th of this year at 751 Fathom Road. It was at apartment 5204. And this is where Mr. Rashid Muhammad told officers that his girlfriend, the defendant whom he lives with, accused him of cheating and was moving out of the apartment. And so the two engaged in an argument with one another because Mr. Muhammad continued to touch the defendant's snacks, and then she got upset. And so she hit she hit Mr. Muhammad. Officers noted that Mr. Muhammad had bruising on his face and elbow. Our office was able to speak to Mr. Muhammad today, and he let us know that they've been together for about a year and that the defendant is actually pregnant right now. He also let us know that this was the first time an incident like this has happened between the two and that he does not fear the defendant. He also let us know that he wants contact with the defendant, Your Honor.
Okay.
So for these reasons, regardless of what Mr. Muhammad said, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 surety bond. We're asking for a one-day anger awareness course, no further contact with Mr. Muhammad, and to stay away from 751 Fathom Road, apartment 5204, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond. Also, Your Honor, if Mr. Muhammad is on Zoom, I would like to sound for him.
I believe he is. I see a Rashid on Zoom. Is that Mr. Rashid Muhammad? If he wants to be addressed, he needs to start his video and his audio. All right, Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is actually she's been here from May 2022, and it was my client who actually called the police at that night about 2 months ago, and she was he threw her to the table, and she wanted to protect her baby inside of her body. So while she was trying to protect her baby, it's possible that there was some kind of scratch that could have happened to Mr. Rashid Muhammad. And my client says that it was a self-defense to protect her baby. She was staying there because she was the one who called the police. When the police came, Mr. Rashid was not even there. We would like to request for a signature on bond. She does not have anybody else who can bail her out, and this is her first offense ever being arrested. So we would like to request for a signature on bond.
All right, this is the last call for Mr. Rashid Mohammed.
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can't see you. If I cannot see
hold
you,
on.
we won't be able to address you.
Oh, okay, hold on 1 second. I'm trying to fix it. Hold on 1 second.
All right, Mr. Rashid, it's been more than 10 seconds.
He signed off, Your Honor, so he's trying to come back in.
Is he left the Zoom?
He's on now.
Is it on a different panel? Okay, Mr. Rashid, you need to unmute this new device and close out the other device.
There's only one device I've been using.
Okay, all right, Mr. Mohammed, what would you, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
All right, what would you like to tell us?
So everything that happened, that was from a few months ago. I told the cops what happened and they haven't told us anything. A few days ago, they came to the house from what I was told. They was looking for her, but she was at work. Then the next day they came and they just arrested her. They didn't tell us nothing until after, and they told us where she was gonna be at. I've been trying to bail her out, but they said,
what were you expecting them to tell you?
I mean, I don't know what happened. They just came out of nowhere. They
I
didn't
know,
tell her. I didn't get.
Mr. Mohammed, just answer the question. You said they didn't tell you anything. What were you expecting them to tell you?
I don't know. They
Okay.
came to me looking for her, trying to figure out why she didn't report it. That's all I know.
All right, thank you.
But she's
And
still,
are you still occupying the 751 Fairburn Road location?
yeah, she lives with me.
Okay, and who is on the lease or who owns that property?
That's me. I'm on the lease.
You are the only person on the lease?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And so does she contribute to the rent?
Yes, she does.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. This incident apparently occurred on June 8th, 2023. There was apparently an alleged physical altercation. The defendant, according to the warrant, called the police on June 8th, 2023, and was on scene when the police arrived. However, Mr. Mohammed had left to take his brother to work. The accused, Cody Tyers, was positively identified by herself when she spoke to the police. Then on August 5th, the police officer M. Coffin, testified for a warrant, and the warrant was granted on August 5th, 2023, based on the incident that occurred on June 8th, 2023. So there was an active warrant issued on August 5th, 2023, and that's why the police came looking for Ms. Tyers on that date. The bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Ms. Tyers, you can sign up for your bond today. You don't have to pay. You may return to 751 Fairburn location if you want to. I don't know if you and Mr. Mohammed have kissed and made up. I have no idea. But if you're comfortable living with him, and if Mr. Mohammed has indicated that he's comfortable living with you, then you both are entitled to live in that same property. Otherwise, as and no further violent contact with Rashid Mohammed, which means that you cannot have any physical or verbal altercation with Mr. Mohammed. Keep in mind, Ms. Tyus, this order is only against you. It's not against Mr. Mohammed. So you have the responsibility of making sure that you do not engage in any kind of physical or verbal altercation with Mr. Mohammed. If you're not comfortable living with him under this restriction, you are free to live at a different location, but you have to update the court with your new address within 30 days of being released. While you are out on a signature bond through pretrial, you shall report to pretrial once a month. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and there cannot be any, you cannot possess any firearms or weapons. So if Mr. Mohammed owns a firearm, either you go or the firearm goes, because you and the firearm cannot be under the same roof. Understood? Mr. Mohammed, do you own a firearm or firearms in your household?
Nope, never have.
All right, well, if that's true, then Ms. Tyus can remain at that location if you choose to have her back. Also, Ms. Tyus, within 30 days of being released from the Fulton County jail, you will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. This is a 24-week domestic violence program, and you will show proof of enrollment to the pretrial officer by your second visit. Do you understand? And you will attend those classes every week and pay for those classes out of your own pocket. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current mailing address. If you change your address, please be sure to let us know. Thank you. Mr. Mohammed, you're free to go.
Oh, man. Position number 5, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. This is State versus Henry Breyer. Are you Mr. Breyer?
Send a voicemail, press 2.
Someone's voice message is coming on. Mr. Rashid, you can leave the Zoom. All right. Henry Breyer is case 23 CR 5009G, accused of theft by taking, 2 separate counts of theft by taking, and 1 count of criminal trespass causing damage to property. This stems from a June 29th, 2023 incident. Mr. Breyer, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Pulliam. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
68, a resident of New York. He's on probation out of New York for criminal mischief. He's on probation in Muskogee County for shoplifting. He got a 2020 damage to property conviction, 2018 burglary conviction, 2022 petty theft conviction. I stopped there.
That'll be fine. Thank you. Ms. Udo, what's the bond recommendation for Mr. Breyer?
The bond recommendation, Your Honor, is going to be $5,000 surety bond, $2,000 on each theft, $1,000 on the trespass. Certainly stay away from both places. I would also note he has a $2,500 bond for an unindicted felony case for possession of tools to commit a crime at 23 CP 220-246. Your Honor, by way of Mr. Breyer ending up in the jail, officers went to Macy's on the date that you mentioned for a report of a theft. They talked to loss prevention, who stated that the defendant walked into the store, walked up to the 3rd floor of an unattended cash register and sold $255. He then left the store. The incident was recorded on surveillance footage. The Macy's loss prevention folks told the officer that they were talking to Bloomingdale's loss prevention folks. And so he went over to Bloomingdale's. He spoke to them, who reported that approximately 45 minutes before the Macy's theft, the defendant entered their store, went to an unattended cash register and took $175 and left the store. That register was damaged in the course of the theft. Mr. Breyer was already on Bloomingdale's loss prevention's radar. And so a detective for Bloomingdale's had already developed Mr. Breyer as a suspect. A recent arrest photo of the defendant was procured, and loss prevention officers were able, from both Macy's and Bloomingdale's, were able to identify him as the man involved in both thefts. Your Honor, because of the 14 convictions for shoplifting, he also has 2 arrests out of Pennsylvania. He's a multi-state offender. That's the reason for the recommendation in bond.
Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, Mr. Breyer is 65 years old. He doesn't have any children, but he does have a valid address in Atlanta area where he stays with his aunt. He works as a landscaper, Your Honor. Unfortunately, he doesn't always get employment, and so we're asking for a signature bond in this case, or a $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor. Mr. Breyer has informed me that he doesn't have any money in order to bond out, Your Honor, and so we're just asking for the lowest possible bond in this particular matter.
All right. State's recommendation is a $5,000 bond, which is granted, $2,000 on each count of theft by taking, $1,000 on the criminal trespass causing damage to property. Mr. Breyer is to stay away from all Macy's and all Bloomingdale's stores in the state of Georgia. Not just any particular mall, but every single store. I always wondered when I walked around why there were unattended cash registers. Now maybe everything will be manned from now on. Who knows? Hopeful thinking. All right.
You repeat that bond one more time?
Sure. 2,000 each on the theft by taking, 1,000 on the criminal trespass is a surety bond. Stay away from all Macy's and all Bloomingdale stores in the state of Georgia. No illegal drugs, weapons, or firearm and alcohol. Next court date is August 31st.
Position number 7, Mr. Coleman.
All right. Is this Joshua Coleman?
It is.
All right. State versus Joshua Coleman, case number 23 CR 5010C. Mr. Coleman is accused of theft by taking from August 16th, 2023. Mr. Coleman, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. Pulliam. And I see that there is a companion case of 23 CR 2035C. Mr. Howard, other than that open case, what other matters does Mr. Coleman have?
He's got a trespass conviction from this year, 2022 failure to appear probation, and 2021 trespass conviction.
All right. Ms. Hudak?
Your Honor, on August 16th, the defendant took a bait bike equipped with a GPS tracker from the Georgia Tech campus. The tracker alerted Georgia Tech officers that the bike was being taken. Surveillance footage showed the defendant removing the bike from its location on campus and riding it to another area. He was stopped by Georgia Tech officers and detained. Your Honor, for that reason, we are asking for a $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from the entire Georgia Tech campus, anti-theft class, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
I am not, oh, I see. Okay. And he's got the bench warrant on the other case in which he's scheduled for with Judge Dixon on October 13th. Okay. Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Mr. Coleman, Your Honor. He is 26 years old. He currently does not have a employment, but he does have some college, and so he's hopeful that he's able to retain employment. We're asking today, Your Honor, for a signature bond on this particular case, or the lower or a $500 surety bond. Mr. Coleman maintains his innocence, Your Honor, and again, he'll get his day in court, and the state will get theirs. And so we're just asking for a signature bond, or if the court's not so inclined, a $500 surety bond.
What bond did Judge Dixon issue on the bench warrant? I don't see one. And has he been in felony court already?
He was there this morning, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to go with the state's recommendation of $1,000 surety bond. Next court date is August 31st. To stay away from the entire Georgia Tech campus or the Institute of Georgia Technology, and no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons and firearms. I honestly don't know what is the bond in the bench warrant matter. Either it's no bond or
Your Honor, which case is this?
23 CR 2035C 002035C.
002053C.
No, 2035C.
203.
We have an FTA from June 13th, 2023. I don't know what bond she said, so.
And if Your Honor could just give me a moment, I can make that determination.
Mhm.
Or it looks like Ms. Hudak is also looking if she can maybe answer the court's question and unmute.
I also am looking for it right now. Sorry.
All I've got is that he's got an October 13th date with Judge Dixon. So if there's no bond, I mean, if he doesn't have a bond restriction on the bench warrant, just Mr. Pulliam, you might want to advise the PD and Judge Dixon's court that he's got presently this case going.
Will do, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Position number 3, Mr. Bennett.
This is Alexander, middle initial C, Bennett. And Mr. Bennett, you've been accused of theft by taking from May 22nd, 2023. You've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Pulliam. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
This ninth arrest, 2013 sale of marijuana, 2012 sale of cocaine. He was recommended.
Okay. Ms. Hudak?
Thank you, Your Honor. This offense did occur on May 22nd of 2023. Officers responded to the Exxon gas station located at 2549 Roosevelt Highway in College Park for the report of a theft. The victim, whose name is Miraj, M-I-R-A-J, Kotadia, K-O-T-A-D-I-A, was working and stocking shelves. He had his iPhone laying on a table next to him. When his back was turned, the defendant picked up the phone and walked immediately out of the store. The defendant went to a nearby Dollar General and sold the phone to an Eco ATM. During the investigation, officers learned that the defendant used his Georgia ID to sell the phone. The officer was also able to obtain a clear photograph of the defendant while selling the phone from the Eco ATM machine. Officers were aided in the investigation by the fact that the defendant was wearing an orange and yellow traffic vest at both the Exxon, where it was captured on CCTV, and also the Eco ATM photograph. Your Honor, we are recommending a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Mr. Kotadia, stay away from the Exxon station, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. We're going to address Mr. Bennett's bond. Deputy, could you have Mr. Coleman on next? We need to address his bond in the other bench warrant case. All right, Mr. Pulliam, what is the recommendation for your client?
We're asking for a signature bond, Your Honor. I think he does meet the criteria for UJR. But Mr. Bennett is 43 years old, Your Honor. He has 2 children. He has an 11th grade education. And so additionally, I believe that his last arrest was over 10 years ago. And so we're asking for a signature bond in this particular case. And again, he maintains his innocence.
Thank you. Bond is set at $1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services per judge to stay away from the Exxon gas station at Roosevelt Highway. No contact with Mr. Miraj Kotadia. And his next court date will be sent to his current address. So he'll need to make sure that we have his current mailing address. So he needs to update that within or confirm that within 30 days of being released. He'll report to pretrial every month until further order of the court. If he fails to comply with the conditions of the bond, or if he gets arrested again, the signature bond gets revoked and converted to a surety bond. Thank you.
Number 7 again, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Mr. Coleman, you were in the other case, 23 CR 002035C, in which Judge Dixon has issued a bench warrant, and you have a court date of October 13. We are amending your signature bond through pretrial pursuant to your new arrest to a surety bond. So that's going to be a $2,000 surety bond. Ms. Udall, if you can submit a bond modification indicating that the signature bond has been amended to a surety bond on the grounds that he has been arrested in the present case, 23 CR 005010C.
Is he still on pretrial?
According to the message I got from chat.
Your Honor, I will just say, yes, it looks like the pretrial order is still in place. My understanding is that usually the state doesn't need to do a modification. Pretrial just normally converts that and revokes the existing bond. So do you still wish us to do a modification?
I do, because typically that would show on the Odyssey as a converted bond, but it doesn't. So that's why we need to just go through the steps.
Okay, we'll make sure to prepare that for the court. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. And Ms. Bridgewater, for the SAP date for August 31st, we're going to put both cases for Mr. Coleman, the current one ending in 5010C and the one ending in 2035C.
Will do.
Thank you. All right.
For Mr. Boss.
Why is that name so familiar? Did you say BOST?
BOSS.
Oh, S, okay. This is State versus Darnell Boss, accused of giving false information to an officer from August 16th, 2023, accusation number 23 CR 5024A. Mr. Boss, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. And is this going to be conflict or PD's case? Ms. Kim, Mr. Pulliam? I'm sorry, Mr.
It's not
Pulliam?
my case, and so I'm not exactly sure if it's Kim's or not.
All right, Ms. Kim?
What was the name of the defendant, Your Honor?
Darnell Boss, BOSS.
I believe that's Ms. Kim's case.
All right, Ms. Kim? And who is the co-defendant in this one?
It's position 14, Mr. Austin Leon.
Okay. Got him as position
Well,
15 on the calendar. Okay.
Yes, 15, I'm sorry.
Deputy, is Austin Leon in the courtroom?
He is.
All right, could he come forward too? And you can place him anywhere you believe is appropriate.
The right side.
All right. This is the co-defendant, State versus Austin Leon, case number 23 CR 005021A. Also accused of giving false information to an officer from August 16th, 2023. And Mr. Leon, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. McLeod. All right, while we are waiting for Ms. Kim, Mr. Howard, any priors on Mr. Leon and Mr. Boss?
Boss last arrest was 2015 for probation. Leon's a little different. 49 total with that one. Last arrest was 2022 probation. On probation in Gwinnett for shoplifting. He got probation violations from 2021, FTA from 2018. 2017 he got a lot of shoplifting in his history. That's
All
pretty
right.
much it.
Thank you. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Ms. Bickerstaff, I beg your pardon, Ms. McLeod. Sorry about that. Ms. Bickerstaff, what is your recommendation for Mr. Leon?
Yes, Your Honor, just quickly for the record, this incident occurred yesterday at the Target at 5950 State Bridge Road. And this is where officers they responded to the Target in reference to a shoplifting in progress. When officers met with the caller who witnessed the males take items from the store, the caller said that he witnessed the two males enter into a red SUV. Officers made contact with the two men and observed several items with the security seals on them. The driver gave officers his driver's license, with which his name was, the name on the driver's license was Preston Hughes, but he was later identified as the other defendant, Darnell Boss. And the passenger, the defendant in this position, he gave a driver's license with the name Khalil Dean, whose name turned out to be Austin Leon, Your Honor. Target personnel told officers that they did not want to press charges for the shoplifting, but they did want to have the men trespass from the property. So for these reasons, defendant Leon's bond recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond. We're asking for the defendant to stay away from Target at 5950 State Bridge Road in Duluth, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
All right. Miss Kim, is she back yet? No. Okay, Miss.
I'm back.
All
I
right.
represent the Darnell Boss.
Yes, and so that was the recommendation for Darnell Boss. Do you have a recommendation for Mr. Leon?
Well, that was actually the recommendation for Mr.
Oh.
Leon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, what was the recommendation for Mr. Boss?
Mr. Boss's recommendation is a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services. And we're also asking that he stay away from Target at 5950 State Bridge Road, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Okay. And Ms. Kim, I don't think you have an objection to that, yes?
Nope, no objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. McLeod, any recommendation for your client, Mr. Leon?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 56 years old. He is a disabled veteran. He tells me, Your Honor, he does not have any significant income. So I would ask the court to take that into consideration and give him a signature bond, considering the nature of the allegations against him.
Okay. For both defendants, your bonds are going to be $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. So you will have to make sure that you update the court with your current mailing address within 30 days of being released from the jail. You are to stay away from all Target stores, all of them, not just the one on State Bridge Road. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. And we will see you in court when you are summoned back. Thank you.
Both of those are per judge.
Yeah, and gentlemen, please be mindful that if you get arrested again for anything else, your signature bond is removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. McLeod, was that your only case?
No, Your Honor, I also have another matter on the calendar.
Okay, who do we have, please?
Add-on number one, Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, okay. This is State versus Noah Nelson, case number 23 CR 005053. Mr. Nelson has got 2 counts of battery charged against him stemming from an incident of August 17th, 2023. Mr. Nelson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any priors, Mr. Howard?
I think it's the first arrest.
All right.
I'm about to step away real quick. I'll be back.
All right. Who is our prosecutor in this matter?
I believe this is the one that Ms. Falk was addressing earlier.
Yeah, Ms. Falk, are you ready to address the add-on case?
I am, Your Honor. I'm not sure if PD Kim had an opportunity to speak with the defendant, and so I just wanted to double check before we get started.
Yes, I was able to speak with him. That's why I could not come back to boss.
Okay.
Totally understand.
Earlier.
So the state is ready to proceed, Your Honor.
All right. So I understand he doesn't have any priors. Could you confirm that, Ms. Falk?
Your Honor, that is correct. The defendant does not have any prior convictions.
Okay. What is the state's recommendation for a bond on these 2 counts of battery?
So, Your Honor, just to give you some background on this case, this was the result of a traffic accident that occurred at the intersection of Sunset and MLK Junior Drive. The defendant was actually involved in the accident. Our victim, who is Alexander Holmes, was a bystander. So the officer was finishing up the traffic investigation, and a witness, Miss Nigea Wilson, pulled the officer aside and stated there was a fight between 2 males that were identified as Alexander Holmes and the defendant. And the defendant was, she stated the defendant struck Mr. Holmes several times in the face with his fist. The officer then approached Mr. Alexander Holmes, who was laying on the ground, going in and out of consciousness and spitting up blood. Mr. Holmes told the officer he did not know how many times he was struck. When the officer approached the defendant stated he was approached by Holmes, who called him a dumbass and put his finger in his face and pushed him. And the defendant then admitted to striking Mr. Holmes. Mr. Nelson the defendant was involved in the traffic accident, was cleared by Grady as a part of that accident. I will note for the record, and this is important given the circumstances, the defendant is a defensive linebacker with CAU, Clark Atlanta University. He stands 6 feet 7 inches tall and weighs 295 pounds. The victim, Mr. Holmes, is 6 feet tall and 154 pounds. So at this time, the defendant had 7 inches of height and over 100 pounds on Mr. Holmes, the victim. We did have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Holmes and his mother, Victoria Martin. Mr. Holmes, the victim, is 18 years old. Mr. Holmes stated he was a witness to the accident that the defendant caused. He was standing by and calling the police. He stated the defendant and other individuals that were with him then approached him and began getting in Mr. Holmes' personal space. At that point, Mr. Holmes stated he tried to push the defendant back to create some space because of the aggressiveness of which the defendant approached him. And at that time, the defendant began punching him. Mr. Holmes stated he cannot remember much after that because he was going in and out of consciousness. We did also speak with Mr. Holmes' mother, Victoria Martin, who stated that she had to take her son back to the hospital because he was unable to walk, constantly throwing up, and had to keep his eyes closed because the lights had been bothering him. She stated his nose was bloody. The doctors are unsure at this time if his nose was broken, and they ended up having to leave the hospital after 5 hours last night because they had not been seen. They did return to the hospital today, and there are x-rays that have been taken to determine whether Mr. Holmes' nose is in fact broken. If it is, we are recommending this case for transfer to the felony division. But Mr. Holmes at this time has been diagnosed and has a fractured tooth and a concussion as a result of this incident. We also spoke to Ms. Martin, who told us that she is afraid, as well as Mr. Holmes is afraid of this defendant, because when they arrived on the scene, when Ms. Martin arrived on the scene to check on her son, the defendant made numerous threats towards her, stating he would be in trouble if he lost his scholarship, if he got arrested, and demanding that they drop any charges. So for this reason, the state does have some serious concerns, Your Honor. As I said, this is a 100-pound weight difference and a 7-inch height difference. It does not appear that Mr. Holmes knew who this defendant was. He was merely recording a traffic accident and calling the police when this defendant got in his face and attacked him brutally. For that reason, the state is requesting a $10,000 surety bond. That's going to be $5,000 on both counts of battery. We are also requesting that there be no further contact with Mr. Alexander Holmes. We are requesting there be a curfew from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. This incident happened around 1:13 in the morning. And we are also requesting that there be no alcohol, drugs, or weapons and anger management classes. I will state that Miss Victoria Martin and Mr. Holmes are on the Zoom, I believe, and we would like to sound for them.
Ms. Martin and Mr. Holmes, if you are present, this will be the moment to unmute and start your video.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Hello, I do see. Okay, thank you. All right, good afternoon. Mr. Holmes and Ms. Martin, my name is Judge Long. If both of you would like to testify, you would need to raise your right hands, please. Ms. Martin, your other right hand.
So sorry.
You solemnly swear and affirm. You as well, Mr. Holmes? Can you raise
my
your
bad.
hand?
My apology.
That's all right. There you go. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. You have just heard Ms. Falk go through a detailed narrative of the alleged facts. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, you go ahead first.
No, at this time, the only thing that I would like to add is that we're still running tests to completely verify the extent of his injuries. And we won't know that until we get everything back from the physician, hopefully today or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And does Mr. Holmes attend the Clark Atlanta University as well?
No, ma'am. I attend Morehouse College.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to our defense counsel. Ms. Martin, if you could please mute the screen. Thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, I believe Ms. Marquetta Bryan is my client's auntie and an attorney, but she does not practice criminal law. But she is here to support, and his mother is here to support as well. My client is 19 years old, and he is studying biology because he wants to be a chiropractor. And Your Honor, he graduated from high school, very, very good student. He got full scholarship to as a football player at Clark University College, Your Honor. He is also working part-time, and my client denies as the first aggressor. He was not a first aggressor. He was attacked by Mr. Alexander Holmes before this happened, and we would like to request for signature on bond since this is his first arrest ever in his life.
Are you alleging that Mr. Holmes was the one who struck him first?
That's what I was told. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And Your Honor, that's contradicted by the independent witness who approached the officer to tell the officer he saw the defendant beating Mr. Holmes.
Well, I guess that's all going to come out during the course of a trial. I believe okay, you've already provided the witness name. And just to clarify, Ms. Falk, this was originally charged as a simple battery, but the state has instead re-accused this case as two separate counts of battery.
That is correct. Due to the severe visible injury on the victim, simple battery is not the appropriate charge.
All right. And I gather one is for the concussion, and what's the other one for?
One is for the visible bodily injury. We received pictures of abrasions, bruises, and bleeding.
Okay.
Your Honor, I just want to make sure that I just want to put this in a record. There are some other witnesses that my client can provide who was not interviewed by the police officers, but there are other witnesses who will corroborate my client's story.
Would that be the other occupants of the defendant's vehicle?
Passenger and also other third-party witness.
Okay, understood. Thank you. On each count of battery is going to be $10,000. That's going to be a $20,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Nelson, you have a $20,000, but it's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Well, you're a young man with a scholarship and apparently a very bright future ahead of you. And in a matter of seconds, you could see those all disappear in a puff of smoke if you don't work diligently towards trying to resolve this matter. Your entire future can be wiped out in one swift movement if you don't comply with the conditions from this moment forward and don't conduct yourself accordingly. It's all up to you. I understand that your mother is on Zoom, so I'm sure she understands the serious gravity of this moment, because we have seen too many young men wipe out their futures by something that they don't do. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to get your life reinstated if you comply with your conditions. Do you understand? It is a signature bond through pretrial, which means that you will be reporting to pretrial services once a month. Your mother has to come down and co-sign the bond. There will be no utility waiver. We need to unmute, and if your mom or you want to give me her correct name, that would help.
Good afternoon. I'm here, Judge. Both of your parents are here.
And
My name is
Jaquetta Johnson?
Jaquetta Johnson, yes, ma'am.
Jaquetta Johnson.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Mrs. Johnson, you will have to come down to the pretrial services. You will need to bring a valid ID and you need to bring a utility bill where the address on the bill matches the address on your ID. I'm assuming the utility bill is going to be in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you'll need to bring that in order to co-sign his $20,000 signature bond in order for him to be released.
Thank you, ma'am.
To have no further contact, no contact with Alexander Holmes, no contact with Victoria Martin. He is to stay away from Morehouse College. He's not allowed on that campus at all. If he has a game that he has to play at Morehouse College, that is a subject that he will have to discuss with his coach and make the coach understand that he's not allowed on Morehouse College campus. He's to stay 200 yards away from Mr. Holmes and Miss Martin. He's not to contact them in any way, form, or manner, either in person, through a phone or a computer device, through a third party, which means that you, as well as the parents of Mr. Nelson, cannot communicate with the alleged victims in this case. He's to have no contact with Najaya Wilson, who is the alleged independent eyewitness of this incident. No driving unless he has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and the car is properly registered. He is going to be subject to a curfew. The curfew is going to begin at 7 p.m. and is going to be up to 7 a.m. Do you understand, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, may I ask some questions about the curfew?
I gather he has a question too. Yes, Mr. Nelson?
Go ahead, Noah.
How you doing, Your Honor? So I currently have practice till about 8:30. And then
Tell your coach you need to be home by 7.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So what about work? What about work?
7 p.m. to 7 a.m. He needs to be home.
So he won't be able to work anymore.
7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you.
How long that's for, Your Honor?
Until further order of the court.
I put the address to co-sign in the chat to the mother.
All right. Ms. Johnson, you will see in the chat feature the address where you'll have to report. In addition to the curfew, he is to not consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and not possess any weapons or any firearms. His next court date will be sent to his current address. So if he changes his address, he'll need to update the court with his current mailing address.
Can I say a question, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Ma'am, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I'm his father. Well, I see that he getting charged with he getting charged twice.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to repeat myself one more time. He was originally charged in the warrant with simple battery. The Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County has the right to review the documents, the circumstances, and the evidence they gather, and they can accuse him of different charges altogether.
Is he able to travel?
No.
Your Honor, can we have 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.? Can we have an exception for practicing and work, please?
No.
Because it will help him to stay in the school.
Our son never been in trouble, never, Your Honor.
Welcome to this world.
I mean, he had witnesses.
Mr. Johnson, I'm not about to argue with you. I am not arguing with you. If you want him to get his life back on track, this is what he has to do.
But he's guilty already, though, right now.
Oh my God.
He's presumed to be innocent.
Oh my goodness, Mr. Johnson,
Okay.
I wouldn't be
Your
making
Honor,
this
if I
statement.
may,
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Thank you. No,
Your
we're done.
Honor,
Thank
if
you.
I may, hi. This is Attorney Jasmine Moses Counts with the Public Defender's Office.
Yes, Ms. Counts.
Yes,
Ms.
I've been
Counts.
observing. I just wanted to ask just one, I understand that, it's under the court's discretion to make this ruling. However, the young man is enrolled in college, and it's my understanding that his employment, I'm more so concerned about his ability to stay employed in order to continue to fund the expenses of college. I would ask that you reconsider, at least in that respect, especially if he's on a football scholarship. If he's not going to be able to attend games, then he's probably going to lose that scholarship. Therefore, he needs to have some type of income in order to stay.
All right. If you would like to submit, if Ms. Kim would like to submit something in writing with regards to his job, his hours, and so forth, I would reconsider the bond, but I'm not doing it today. Right now.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Now,
I will
this
make
is
sure
the
Ms.
bond.
I will make sure Ms. Kim gets with the family and can submit that to the court.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Your Honor.
And Mr. Nelson, depending on the outcome of the alleged victim's injuries, I'm putting you on notice that right now you are charged with a misdemeanor offense. If the case goes to trial and the prosecution carries its burden to prove the charges against you or beyond a reasonable doubt and overcomes, this is also for your father, overcomes your legal presumption of innocence, you could be convicted and sentenced to up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine for each convicted offense. That is the penalty you're facing if the case goes to trial and the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Your father is absolutely incorrect. You are right now legally presumed innocent of the two charges unless the state carries its burden of proof. Now, the second thing I want you to be put on notice of is that based on what the prosecutor has told me, depending on how serious the alleged victim's injuries turn out to be, the state is considering upgrading your case from a misdemeanor offense to a felony charge, which is far more serious than what you're facing right now and could definitely jeopardize any future you may have in any sporting arena. So I caution you very, very strongly to comply with the conditions in order to avoid any further problems in this case. Do you understand? I know it's important to work. I know it's important to play sports and maintain your scholarship. But right now, I'm looking to try to put your future intact. Thank you. That concludes this case. Next one. Do we have a Quentin Turner?
Position number 10, Mr. Evans.
All right. Not Mr. Evans. Okay. Daquan Evans. All right. Case number 23 CR 4998F. Mr. Evans is accused of battery, domestic violence from June 2nd, 2022. And Mr. Evans, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Pulliam? Yep, okay. And Mr. Howard, any arrest cycles?
This is third. Last was in July, Gwinnett County. Sale of marijuana, possession of a firearm during the commission. 2020 felony obstruction. Did he go to felony yesterday?
I don't know. I didn't see anything on Mr. Evans.
Okay. Right. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Udock?
Thank you, Your Honor. So this incident didn't occur on June 2nd. Officers responded to 521 Pelton Place, Northwest Atlanta, for the report of a domestic. They spoke to the victim, Brittany Hallowell. Brittany is spelled Brettani, who stated that the father of her child, Mr. Evans, came to the address despite the fact that she told him not to. He initially offered her money for the child, but then started arguing with her about talking to other men. She went to walk back into the home to get away from him, but he followed her, pushed her on the couch, slapped her several times in the face before fleeing. Officers observed redness and bruising to Ms. Hallowell's upper chest. Your Honor, at the appropriate time, I'm asking that you sound for the victim. But I would also like to note, Your Honor, that in addition to the Gwinnett County case, he was also picked up in a vehicle where he had 2 stolen firearms on his lap and a small amount of marijuana. Our office sent that up to the district attorney's office pursuant to a felony transfer yesterday. We are requesting a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Brittany Holloway, stay away from the address at Pelton Place, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Okay.
He got open CPs, ag assault, possession of a firearm. I thought I saw that.
All right. Do you have the recent one, the possession of a stolen firearm?
I'll look that up now, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Mr. Evans, Your Honor. He is 24. And just for the record's sake, the incident did occur on June 2nd, but this happened in 2022, not 2023. In fact, him and the alleged victim in this case have had communications and have been on good terms since this incident, Your Honor. And so just want to make sure that is perfected for the record. Mr. Evans does have a high school diploma, Your Honor. He does work. He owns a vape shop, and so he does have valid employment. He also has a valid Atlanta address, Your Honor, and so he is, and he also has 2 other children, Your Honor. And so we're asking today, Your Honor, that a surety bond be set in the amount of $1,000 for Mr. Evans' case.
Okay. Brittany was it Holloway?
That's correct, yes.
All right, is she on the Zoom? No? Okay. On the battery family violence, the bond's going to be set at $2,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Brittany Holloway, unless I hear differently. Right now, it's going to be a no further contact. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely no firearms. He cannot have firearm on his person in any vehicle he occupies. At his place of business, in his home, nowhere near him. Next court date is going to be August 31st. Thank you.
Position.
Just 1 second. Miss Holly? Miss Bridgewater?
Yes, Your Honor.
In this particular case, Evans, there's been an order that's been incorrectly filed. I was just wondering if we can make sure that order is removed from Mr. Evans' case and placed in the correct case number.
Okay, I'll make a note of it. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right, thank you. Next case, please.
Position number 6.
This is State versus Stephen Kavanaugh, accused of battery from August 5th, 2023. Mr. Kavanaugh, you've been advised to have your right to remain silent, and your attorney will be Mr. Pulliam. Your accusation number is 23 CR 5008E. Mr. Howard, any priors?
This is second arrest. Last was 2022. Violation of family violence order. He's on probation for ag stalking. You got that case number?
No.
22 SC 181172. They gave him 5 years probation a year ago today.
Thank you. Ms. Hudak?
Yes, Your Honor. So this occurred on 8/5/2023 at the Wellstar North Fulton address. He was on a 1013 hold, and he bit security officer Andrew Hara on the left forearm, leaving visible marks. We're asking for a $2,000 surety bond, a stay away from the Wellstar North Fulton, located at 3000 Hospital Boulevard in the city of Roswell. No further contact with Mr. Andrew Hara, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And it does appear that the probation violation case, he's sitting on no bond for that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pulliam? I'm sorry, sir. Could you unmute, please?
Sorry about that, Your Honor. This is Mr. Kavanaugh. He is 50 years old, Your Honor. He holds a bachelor's degree in automotive marketing. In fact, has been in the Atlanta area and has worked for a number of reputable dealerships in the marketing area for over 35 years. He has 4 children ranging from the ages of 19 to 11. Again, he was at Wellstar for a 1013 incident, Your Honor, and so I believe it was involuntary, if I'm not mistaken. And so, but we have no issues with staying away from Andrew Hara, the alleged victim in this case. We're asking for a signature bond, however, in this case, Your Honor, due to the fact that he doesn't have much criminal history at all, Your Honor, and as well as to get back with his family to take care of them, Your Honor. And so that's what we're asking for this time.
All right. The bond's presently going to remain at the $2,000 surety bond, and no violent contact, with Andrew Hara, no violent contact with the Wellstar North Fulton staff. He is to stay away from the Wellstar North Fulton Hospital facility unless he's got a verifiable appointment or is seeking emergency admission. Thank you.
Position number 20, Your Honor, Mr. President.
His next court date is going to be August 31st.
Your Honor, while this defendant is coming up, my business is concluded with the court. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Paul.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I'm sorry, Deputy, could you refresh, what was the name again?
Mr. Turner, position number 20.
20. Do we know what's going on with Patricia Douglas, position 9?
Yes, sure. We filed an order to waive her presence, Your Honor. We would like to actually do that in the breakout session, though.
All right, understood. Thank you. Position 20 is Quentin Turner. Mr. Turner is case number 23 CR 5016A, in which he's accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from August 29th, 2022. Mr. Turner, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Miss Kim.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and any priors, Mr. Howard?
8th arrest, 2019 failure to appear, 2019 battery DV, 2014 probation, 2014 battery DV trespass conviction, and a 2011 interference with custody battery DV. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred August 29th of last year at 72 Milton Avenue in Atlanta. And this is where Miss Samia Berry told officers that her ex-boyfriend, the defendant, came to her residence to retrieve his to retrieve his access card for work. And as he was leaving, the defendant became mad and started yelling and stating that he would destroy her apartment. Ms. Berry told officers that she told the defendant that she would call the police. And so the defendant took Ms. Berry's iPhone and he threw it on the floor, and then he put the iPhone in the toilet, making it inoperable. And after that, the defendant left the residence. Ms. Berry told officers that she then heard the defendant knocking on the door, but she locked herself into the bedroom and she chose not to answer the door. And then she told officers that the knocking became louder. And so then Ms. Berry said she heard a loud boom, and when she felt that it was safe to go out and that the defendant had left the residence, she went out to see that the front door was kicked off its framing. So, Your Honor, our office was able to speak to Ms. Berry today. She let us know that her and the defendant dated for about 6 years and that they did not have a domestic violence history, Your Honor. She also let us know that she's been in contact with the defendant and everything has been cordial since this incident. She also confirmed the events listed in the warrant. She did state that the defendant has then paid for her iPhone. Your Honor, she said that she's fine with having contact and that she doesn't need to stay away. But Your Honor, considering the defendant's history, the 2014 battery family violence, unfortunately, I was not able to get in contact with someone in Henry County. But considering that the defendant has a battery family violence conviction, although the 2019 battery family violence conviction out of Clayton County was dismissed, the state's recommendation would be a $1,000 surety bond on this case, a one-day anger awareness course. We're asking for no further contact with Ms. Berry and to stay away from 72 Milton Avenue in Atlanta, as well as no alcohol, drugs, weapons while out on bond. And if Ms. Berry is on Zoom, I'd like to sound for her.
Samia Berry? All right. Ms. Kim, this
Yes.
will be $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services. No contact with Samia Berry. He's not to contact her in any way, form, or manner. If she decides that she can approach the PD's office and seek an amendment. But until then, Mr. Turner is under a court order to stay away from her. To also stay away from 72 Milton Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons or firearms. Next court date will be sent to his current mailing address. And what we have on file, I don't know if that's his current mailing address.
3569.
Indicator,
Yes.
Indicator,
Yes.
Ricewood, okay.
Yes.
All right. That's,
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
That's per judge.
yes, sir. Next case, please.
Position number
$1,000?
11, Mr. Everett.
I'm sorry, I heard something.
Position number 11, Mr. Everett.
Everett, okay. This is Christopher Everett, Christopher with CRIS. Case number 23 CR 5019C, accused of battery, domestic violence from April 8th, 2023. Mr. Everett, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Pulliam. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
26 total. You're on probation in Rockdale. Forgery of a financial transaction card, identity theft fraud. Got a probation violation from 2018 failed to appear. 2016 simple battery obstruction conviction. I stopped at the 2016 FTA.
All right. Ms. Hudock?
Your Honor, I went a little farther back. I had 2 FTAs from 2011. Nevertheless, this incident did occur on April 8th of 2023 on the state. The victim, who's named Mia Alcock, ALCOCK, reported that her live-in boyfriend, who's the defendant, Mr. Everett, was mad at her because she lost $40. So she called him to 400 Edgewood Avenue, Southeast Atlanta, which is, I believe, a convenience store, and asked his assistance in recovering the money, but he was also unsuccessful in doing so. When they couldn't get the money back, they started to argue, and the dispute turned violent when Mr. Everett pulled Miss Alcock out of the car and stomped on her arms and legs with his feet. He then left the scene. The officer did observe visible bruises and scratches on her hands, wrists, elbows, shin, and ankles. The injuries were captured on body cam. Your Honor, at the appropriate time, we would ask that you would sound for the victim. My office was able to speak to her. It's our understanding that they are expecting a child together. The comment or the state's recommendation is for a $5,000 surety bond and no contact, but our victim, Miss Alcock, said that she's not afraid of him. She wants to see him. And so she is requesting no further violent contact. The state would also recommend 1 day of anger awareness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pulliam?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Mr. Everett, Your Honor. He is 35 years old. He does have a valid address in the Stone Mountain area. Mr. Everett has some college, and in fact is in college currently pursuing a culinary arts degree, Your Honor, with aspirations of opening up his own business one day. He does have 2 children. They're not children with the alleged victim in this case, who currently live with him at his address in the Stone Mountain address, Your Honor. He does suffer from asthma. In addition, Your Honor, my client states that he and the victim are not in a relationship. And so he In fact, in this particular incident, Your Honor, he said he has witnesses and videos showing the alleged victim in this case acting recklessly, and was the primary aggressor in this particular incident. And so with that, we have no issues with a no contact with Mia Alcock, but we're asking for a signature bond. If not a signature bond, then $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor.
Right. Bond is set at $1,000 surety. Next court date is August 31st. No contact with Mia Alcock, to stay away from the 400 Edgewood Avenue in Southeast Atlanta. And I guess that's the location where the alleged incident occurred, the one outside the business?
Correct. It is not her home address.
Right. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Yeah.
Position number 13, Mr. Howell.
This is Shaquan Howell, accused of theft by shoplifting from an incident of August 16, 2023, accusation number 23 CR 5020Y. Mr. Howell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any prior shoplifting convictions, Mr. Howell?
Oh, I don't know. He got a 2019 identity theft fraud, first offender. I stopped at the 2012 probation violations.
Any prior theft convictions, not necessarily shoplifting?
No, Your Honor. I didn't see any.
Okay. And Ms. Bickerstaff, what's your recommendation for Mr. Howell?
Yes, Your Honor. Just quickly for the record, as you already know, the incident occurred yesterday at Von Moore, located at 4000 North Point Circle. And this is where the loss prevention manager on duty show officers a video of the defendant concealing goods belonging to the department store. The defendant actually took a crystal belt necklace and a baguette bracelet, Your Honor. He just walked out of the store, and that's where officers approached him outside of the department store. So for these reasons, the state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond. We're asking for the defendant to stay away from Von Moore at 4000 North Point Circle, as well as no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client is 41 years old. He was born and raised here in Georgia, Your Honor. He has one child, and he is currently working. He is not employed, and actually next Monday, he will be able to start data tech work. So he wants to get out of the jail as soon as he can, so he can get employment secured, so he can pay for his child. He graduated from his high school, and Your Honor, we would like to request for a signature on bond. Thank you.
I see he's got a hold out of Brookhaven without any bond. Does anybody know anything about that? Let's see.
I'll look.
Intake. Right? Brookhaven PD. He's got a hit as valid, place a hold, and send locate. Okay. It'll be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, but he's only to be released to the Brookhaven PD hold. Once he has resolved the hold, he will report to the pretrial services. He is to stay away from the entire, is that the North Point Mall? Is that where the store is located? The
yes.
North Point Mall? Okay. So he's to stay away from the entire mall, the entire North Point Mall area, including the Bondmore store. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons or firearms. And his next court date will be August 30, excuse me. It won't be August 31st, since he'll be released to the Brookhaven PD. So just make sure we have his current address. Mr. Howell, if you change your address, make sure you let the court know so we can send you summons for your next court date. Again, the signature bond is with a release to Brookhaven PD only. So they will need to be notified to come pick him up. Thank you.
So what if they don't come pick him up?
Then I'll put the August 31st date on the calendar so that we can find out why they haven't picked him up.
This would be purchased.
Okay. 2K signature bond through pretrial to Brookhaven PD. Reset dates August 31st, pending his release to Brookhaven Police Department. Okay. Mr. Howell, next case, please.
Position number 18, Mr. Norman.
Do we have 16 and 17 in the courtroom? Eric Lewis or Joe Loving?
Mr. Loving, yes.
Mr. Loving, yes. What about Eric Lewis, position 16?
Your Honor, I thought and please chime in, PD Kim, I thought we handled that yesterday. Mr. Lewis, signed up for a diversion program and he signed everything and I sent the diversion paperwork to our diversion office.
All right, so Eric, diversion was resolved yesterday?
Yes, that's what I
But
thought.
y'all have to give something to the jail to put on his charge or he'll just sit in jail.
Oh, there
I
was
sent over a consent bond to Miss Bridgewater yesterday about it. It's a $2,000 signature bond.
And you sent it over at what time on yesterday?
I sent it over yesterday.
Resend it, Ms. Bickerstaff.
Yes, please, because I don't recall saying that.
Okay, so it's a $2,000 signature bond and admission to diversion. Who is seated in the chair right now in courtroom 2? Who is seated in the chair right now? Deputy in courtroom 2?
Mr. Loving, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Loving, is that Ms. McLeod's client?
It's my client, Your Honor.
Okay. This is Joe Loving, case number 23 CR 005012E.
This is the one that I requested for breakout room, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Loving, please go back on the bench and have a seat behind you. Let's go ahead and address Savoy Javon Norman. Savoy Javon Norman is accused of willful obstruction of an officer, a misdemeanor charge, and misdemeanor possession of marijuana from August 15th, 2023. His accusation number is 23 CR 5014F. Mr. Norman, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Maureen McLeod. Mr. Howard, any priors on Mr. Norman?
He got 30 adult arrests. Last arrest was in April out of Denver, Colorado. He got open assault, 2 counts, got open dangerous drugs. 2022 resisting dangerous drugs conviction, 2021 dangerous drugs arrest, 2020, 2017 failure to appeal.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, would you mind giving me Mr. Loving's priors also before we go into the breakout?
3rd arrest, 2021 failure to appeal, and a 2018 trespass dead docket.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Bickerstaff, what's your recommendation for Savoy Norman?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly. This incident occurred August 15th of this year at 355 Peachtree Street. And this is where officers were surveillancing the area, and they observed a Black male holding what looked like to be a marijuana cigarette. And while he was talking to 2 other males, and so officers made contact with the men, and they immediately arrested one of the males. And as the officer went to the defendant, he ran away from them, but the defendant was caught after a short pursuit. And then after being read his Miranda rights, the defendant did admit to having marijuana on his person in a pill bottle. So the state's recommendation is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services. That breakdown is $500 for the possession of marijuana, and then $1,000 for the willful obstruction. We're also asking for no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Okay. Ms. McLeod, the bond is going to be set at $500 signature bond through the jail. It's going to be $100 on count 1 and $400 on count 2. That's a $500 signature bond through the jail. His next court date will be sent to his current address. Is that Ellis Street?
Your Honor, no, I have an address for him here. Just a moment. It's 2125 Point View Drive in East Point.
Repeat again, please. 2125?
Yes, Point View Drive,
Point View Drive, City.
East Point 30344. And there's an apartment and a room as well, Your Honor. Apartment 1, room 104.
Apartment 1, room 104. Is that correct? Is that correct, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. Miss Bridgewater, did you get that address?
I'm trying to write it right now. Miss McLeod, you put it in the chat, please.
In the chat for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So $500 signature bond through the jail. Mr. Norman, although this may be smoking weed on a corner, I don't know, or just a regular cigarette, but what we have is an active case against you, and you need to make sure you come back to court to address the charges. Thank you.
Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Jackson. I'm an attorney in Atlanta, and my brother is Eric Lewis, I believe, position 16.
The prosecutor is sending us a consent order in which he's got a signature bond, and he is to sign up for the pretrial diversion program offered by the solicitor's office. That order will be filed today, and then they will take it up accordingly.
And was he not heard on the calendar yesterday?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, can the solicitor answer?
Yes,
why
so
he was
yesterday-
No. This is my calendar. This is not somebody else's calendar. Okay, I've already given you the answer. Thank you.
Okay, and is it your understanding that he's still in custody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Bickerstaff, if you can please be in touch.
All right, next case is,
Position number 17, Mr. Lovett.
all right. Mr. Joe Loving, we're going to do a breakout with Miss Kim. And who's the prosecutor? Miss McLeod, did you have another case?
I do not, Your Honor. It might be concluded.
Yes.
I was sending the address.
All right. We've got the bond orders. They will all be issued today. So hopefully everything should move forward accordingly. So who else is going to go in the breakout with us? Miss Bickerstaff, Miss Kim, Mr. Pulliam. All right, let's proceed. And Miss Hudock. And who's my host? Miss Grace. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We are addressing Mr. Joe Loving, case number 23 CR 5012E. After a sidebar conference with both defense attorney and the prosecutors, and given Mr. Loving's prior history, his bond is going to remain at the $600 surety bond. No contact with the alleged victim, and to stay away from the incident location at 503 Winston Terrace. No alcohol, no drugs, and no firearms. Mr. Loving has to be compliant with his medical treatment and medication. And his next court date is going to be August 31st at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Y'all, you repeat that bond one more time.
His bond is $600. It's a surety bond. He's to have no contact with the alleged victim and stay away from the incident location of 503 Winston Terrace. His next court date is going to be August 31st at 11 a.m. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Yes, sir. Anything else?
Thank you. That includes courtroom 2 calendar.
All right, sir. You have a good afternoon then. Take care. Thank you. For the attorneys, I'm just going to go over the calendar. Position number 1, Summer Akil is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. For position 2, Bailey Brown is going to be a 3,450 split bond. $2,600 is a surety bond, and the remainder is a signature bond through the jail. Ms. Holly, you have that breakdown? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was muted. I had the breakdown. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Position 3, Bennett is a 1,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 4, Darnell Boss is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 5, Breyer is a $5,000 surety bond. Reset dates August 31st. Position 6, Kavanaugh is a $2,000 surety bond. Reset August 31st. 7, Coleman's $1,000 surety bond. Reset date is August 31st. And we're going to also reschedule his other open case, which is 23 CR 2035C. 8, Curry is a $2,000 surety bond. Reset date August 31st. 9, Douglas, Patricia Douglas is a waiver of presence, and her bond is at $1,000 surety. Reset date is August 24th at 10 a.m. with TDC. Position 10, Daquan Evans is a 2,500 surety bond. Reset date August 31st. 11, Everett is $1,000 surety. Reset date August 31st. 12 is a $1,000 split bond, and the reset date's August 31st. 13, Howell is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial, and that's all. No, excuse me, that was a signature bond through pretrial, but that's a release to Brookhaven PD only. So pending his pickup by Brookhaven PD, I've reset the case to August 31st. Position 14, Jones, a 3,000 surety bond, reset August 31st. 15, Leon's a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. 16, Lewis is a $2,000 signature bond. Eric Lewis, and that was a consent order which I am signing and sending over to Ms. Holly as soon as we're done with the calendar. Joe Loving is a $600 surety bond. Reset dates August 31st at 11 a.m. 18, Norman is a $500 signature bond through the jail, and that's going to be further notice. Next case is Richardson, and that's a $1,000 surety bond, and reset dates August 31st. Position 20, Turner is a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial, and that is further notice. And 21, Tyus is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial for the notice. And the add-on case, Nelson, is a $20,000 signature bond through pretrial. And That's also further notice.
Ali,
Any correction?
all pretrials are per judge except for Bennett.
Okay.
All right, I think we got everything. Miss, I don't remember who had Nelson, who was representing Nelson. Was it Miss Kim? Miss Counts, yeah. All right, Miss Kim and Miss Jackson Counts, was that the other PD?
Yes.
All right, so if y'all have any modification based on his work schedule and something, you need to send us a copy. You can send it to Miss Bridgewater. Make sure you CC Miss Sylvia Falk on that. All right. All right, folks, y'all have a great afternoon. Some of you have to come back to work tomorrow. All right, including me. All right. Miss Grace? No, that's okay. Does anyone know if you're still doing the Orca calendars in person for this week?
I'm not sure, yeah.
My understanding is yes, at this point. Today they were in person.
Today they were in person? Okay.
Yes.
Then we'll do
Today
it.
and tomorrow, Judge.
All right, I'll see y'all tomorrow then. Thank you. Everyone be good.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.